I'm Patrick,
I'm Levi.
and this is Levi and Patrick Went to the Movies, where we talk about a new movie we love and have loved for a long time every single week.
Every Tuesday.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, ring the notification bell. And today we are talking about Inception.
It kind of blows my mind that Inception came out 10 years ago.
A whole decade.
Yeah, when I think about the fact that I would have been 22, it seems like I was a child. That's only 4 years after 18.
I don't remember how many times I saw it in theaters, who I saw it with. I remember standing in Walmart at midnight, buying it on Blu-ray when it came out.
I think I saw it 5 times, because my record had already been 7 with The Dark Knight. But I don't remember all the times, but I do remember seeing it in Minneapolis at that same theater we always talk about at midnight at the IMAX. I was with my friend. We got there early because you didn't reserve seats, so we were there 4 hours early. And we got right in the middle, and it was an amazing experience for me. I was sitting there loving every minute of it. Turns out my friend, on the other side of her, she was sitting next to a man whose hygiene was less than stellar, and apparently she could smell him the whole time. So for the entire movie, she's sitting there like trying to hold her breath, maybe thinking about getting up and leaving for a few minutes, whereas then a foot away, I was sitting there just had no idea.
I wonder if every time she watches that movie, nasal flashbacks.
Right. I wonder if she's ever watched it again.
She probably just feels sick when she thinks about it.
Inception, or like
Smelshin.
instinction. Instinction is a word. Is it? Instinctual.
Well, speaking of titles, you had talked about the other day that the word Inception, because of this movie, has changed its meaning in popular culture.
There was a great thread online on Reddit about it, how the definition of the word is so ingrained in pop culture that if you were to open something and there was something else inside of it, you'd be like, Inception. When Inception, that's not the meaning. It doesn't mean layers.
Yeah, it does now.
The hallway scene in Inception, one of, if not the only, time in a movie where I genuinely had no idea how they were doing it. The solution, once I Googled it afterwards, is so simple. They just built a hallway that rotates. But in the theater, watching it, I was like actually blown away in the definition of the word, the expression, because there weren't wires, and it wasn't special effects, and like the gun was also falling, and I guess the gun could have been really realistic, but just watching it, and my brain could not compute. It was so incredible, but it was just, how on earth is this possible? Because movies had been obviously out before that, but we grew up with good special effects. The late 90s is like The Matrix and The Mummy and all the Star Wars and all these movies, so it was, special effects were just part of the movies we grew up watching.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that I was 22 in the year 2010, not understanding how they did something on the screen, it was just incredible. And I don't know many movies, I can't think of any really other examples where I felt that way. Because even if you don't really understand what's happening, you know kind of the trick at least. Like, oh, okay, well, there must be a cut somewhere, or there's a special effect that I'm missing.
Yeah.
But that hallway...
Obviously green screen this whole thing.
Right. But that hallway scene with the camera, and like Joseph Gordon-Levitt starts running sideways and then upright, and then they roll up the wall, and then it's upside down, and I just, man, it's an incredible 12-second shot. It's worth the whole movie.
There are so many things about it that are so good, from Dom's whole emotional everything with Maul, their history and what happened between them, her death, him not being able to go home, him just wanting to get back to his kids. So that's the main thing. The whole movie is literally how he goes about achieving that goal. In the beginning, it was an audition. For what? Doesn't matter. You failed. Like, okay. But that audition, he did succeed for Saito hiring him to do the Inception so that he can go home. The whole movie pushes forward, and it almost feels like it's flying by. There are very few moments in the movie where it feels like things are slowing down, and some of those are like the hotel room scene with Maul. But the whole movie pushes forward really, really fast. And some of that is like they're always walking or moving, talking about all the exposition where like this is what's going on, this is how things are set up, especially once Ariadne comes in. But even the music has a forward sense of like momentum to it, where like time is ticking away really, really fast while these people are going through and doing this thing, but so much of it takes so much time, from Dom going and finding Eames, talking to Ariadne, when they're all talking about setting everything up before they go in, and then when Fisher's dad suddenly dies and it's like, okay, well now we have to move So the whole thing constantly feels like we're moving forward really, really fast.
Yeah, the movie it's like 2 hours and 27 minutes, but it feels like this constant barrage of pushing the audience forward. Because even in the description scenes, Ariadne, she's like the representation of the audience, right? Like she's new to this world, so they're explaining everything to her, which they're actually explaining to us as the audience. But even those scenes where they're explaining things to her, it's almost pseudo-montagey with kind of like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is describing something while then it like cuts to the guy with the sedatives with Dom. And that, yeah, you're right, like that could have stopped the music and been a moment, but instead it barely breathes and then it continues into the next thing. It's just, the pace is incredible.
Once they're all on board and they're starting to put together how we're going to do this thing, you're right, where it is kind of montagey, and does that several times where they're talking about things and it'll cut to something else, because there's so many characters and they all have their part to play as they're pushing forward. But even when they're sitting in that room trying to figure out how to do it, where they're talking about the kick, or Eames is talking about like the relationship with the father being the core, positive over negative, it feels so fast because so many different things are happening as this group of people is building up this one project that we're going to be moving forward with. And then once they start that on the plane, the whole rest of the movie is this goal that they've been planning and setting up for the whole time. So that all feels like it's pushing forward really quickly, which I love. They're not just planning like this heist and then they go through it and then there's a twist because, the bad guys or whoever did something and now we have to overcome it. There are so many things that they have to overcome. One of which, the biggest thing, is Maul in Dom's head. Every single dream that they go into, Dom's subconscious Maul is there to thwart them. But also, they didn't know Fisher was going to have subconscious security, so they get into the raining scene and all of a sudden they're being attacked everywhere. The train, the Saito getting shot. I don't think that they planned on going into Fisher's head for the second level. Did they plan on that in the first place? Anyway, once they get in there, so they want to see and make sure that Fisher is suspecting Browning, so that once he is, then they can say we're going into Browning's mind, but they're actually using Fisher to help them break into his own mind because Browning is his projection. So it's like they're handling these things as they come at them. They miss the kick, so Joseph Gordon-Levitt has to go and tie them all up in the elevator. There are a number of things that go wrong mid-job that the characters have to overcome, and that adds to the intensity of them moving forward with this job. Even at the end, where Fisher gets shot and they have to go into limbo, and it's like the only reason that they're doing that is because of Maul, when it comes down to it. Because the whole point is that Dom still has to face that side of himself and overcome it so that he can come out the other side having accomplished that and accomplished the Inception goal. So there's the two main things that he's struggling with the whole time. The main goal and then Maul.
I just realized that his name is Dom, which is the name of Vin Diesel in the Fast and Furious series. Couldn't be more different.
Well, this movie is very fast and a little furious.
Yeah, and there are cars in it. Kind of going back a little bit about the montaginess of it. It's full of that thing that's funny in movies where two characters will be talking at like a coffee shop. Cut to, they're in a new location and they're saying the very next sentence. It's funny to think that maybe the car ride there, they just sat in silence.
They didn't plan on having Ariadne go into the dreams with them, nor did they plan on Saito. Well, I guess early enough they planned on Saito because he was like, I'm coming with. No room for tourists, which is funny that comes back later when he says it when he's dying. It's great. It's a good moment. The only reason Ariadne goes with him is because of Maul, where she's like, you have to tell everyone else what's going on, or I'm going to tell them. Is that what she says? Or she's like, you need someone who knows what you're going through. And because he doesn't want to tell anybody else, he just brings her with. So that was another thing that they added in like mid-job or right before it.
That's what I like about Ariadne, too, is that they wouldn't just bring a newbie on. Like, she's there for a specific purpose, which is Dom's psychology.
Yes, his inability to handle it himself.
Right. And what's nice is that Saito gets shot unintentionally. It wasn't his fault. But she doesn't do anything to kind of mess it up either. I feel like it'd be very easy to create a conflict where the new people in the dream do something foolish that then screws up the plans. Sometimes that happens in heist movies, whereas this one it was like, no, like she's actually really smart and reasonable the whole way.
Yeah. Even when he's like, we need a shortcut, and she's like, I don't know if I should tell you. We don't have time. So she tells him, and then Maul gets in because of that duct. Mm-hmm. So she was right the whole time.
A little detail I like is when the sedative guy in the first level starts the music, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt hears it, and then they hear it down in the winter level. Eames says, I heard it about 20 minutes ago, I thought it was the wind, which means...
Because time.
Yeah, that whole 20 minutes is just such a great little detail. Another fun little detail, you were talking about things that go wrong during the job, and that the first level is raining, because the sedative guy drank a lot of liquid before it started. So it's like he has to pee while he's asleep. I think that's funny. The story is Dom's, but I like how all of the characters have their own separate reasons for being there. But one of them that I was interested in is Michael Caine's character. Is he Dom's dad, or is he Maul's dad?
I don't know. I just assumed he was Dom's dad.
Right.
I love how everything looks. The design of all the sets for the dream worlds, obviously. Even the opening one where they're in Saito's dream, right? And then the apartment one where everything's blowing up outside, you know? So that one is still kind of visually stylized a little differently, but the opening one is very, very fancy and dreamlike. The opening dream level where it's raining feels pretty normal, feels pretty realistic in parts, you know, even though they're in a city and there's all people attacking them and the train comes through. So there are unreal elements. Once they're all in the van and the van is driving, when it gets pushed and tipped, even up on the bridge, it's all just pretty standard, realistic, kind of like darker looking because it's raining, etc. The hotel is really fancy. They're all dressed really fancy and really nice. In the raining van level, they all kind of get disheveled after the whole shootout thing when they're in there, you know, like Dom's hair isn't perfect, whatever. The next level, everything is perfect again because they're going into another dream, so of course everything looks perfect. And then he's running with the Mr. Charles gambit, which also I love that so much. And the hotel looks really great and everything. The snow level obviously is based off of like a James Bond thing, so it still looks really cool with the color differences. You know, each of the levels has a different like feel to it in the color scheme.
Yeah, the rain one is pretty blue. The hotel one with Arthur, it's yellow, orange, and then warm. White, obviously.
Yeah.
What's cool is that layer when it blows up, that's a model. It built this relatively huge model and then it all crumbles.
That's awesome. But even the limbo level has a very, well, obviously, you know, all the big buildings and everything is so far away and everything's like lined up really nice, but even the like grayness of all the houses that they're walking past, even the shots and flashbacks of when he and Maul were there lack a lot of color. It's very like kind of like white and gray and normal looking. And then when Dom and Maul, it's flashing back when they wake up on the floor in that apartment where it's all like brown and red and everything again, you know, like the color comes back when they're not in limbo.
I remember seeing the teaser where it was just like your mind is the scene of the crime, and like the money shot at the end was them like lunging at each other in the air. And then I remember when that trailer came out and it had that dude's music with the everyone associates that with Inception, when the soundtrack I guess is a little similar, but that's just trailer music. And so it's funny to me that this whole association with Inception is just from the trailer, and how from then on every single trailer had a wham type of noise. Not necessarily wham, but it was like doom, dah, you know, like the drawn out horn type thing in every single trailer.
Yeah, well, it was effective.
Yeah.
When I first saw the trailers, your mind is the scene of the crime. I was expecting something entirely different. I don't remember exactly what I was expecting, but like they go into other people's dreams to steal information. We got that from the trailer. So if somebody's mind is a crime scene, I thought this whole movie was going to be them going into this person's dreams and memories to find out who the bad guy was that did something in that person's head. Nope, the whole team of good guys are actually the bad guys going into somebody's head to do the thing.
Yeah, I guess I thought it would be like they're a team of detectives.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe to figure out if you're the murderer, it'd be in your head.
I love how even Ariadne says that Maul is seeping through Dom's subconscious. So anytime we hear the voices of children laughing, I think at one point, or even Dom just like...
That lady breaks the wine glass at the table.
Yes.
And it's like, and then he sees his kids.
Yep, the sound of glass breaking, we already associate with it because it's like the same sound bit from when he steps on the glass and it rings in the hotel room. So even later, when he's in limbo with Ariadne and they're going to go find Saito, or not Saito, they're going to go find Maul and Fisher, and his kids are there. These things are seeping into his mind as they're getting closer to the end of this thing. Dom's resolution with Maul is that there's something she doesn't know, because he hasn't confessed it yet. And I guess to us, that is the turn, the twist, the reveal or whatever, where he's the one that did Inception to Maul, that caused all of this, that caused her whole Inception thing that led to her killing herself. So A, that's a reveal for us, but B, Maul is just a projection inside of his mind. But he knows that she never knew that he did that to her, and now she's dead. She never got to find that out. So his resolution for his version of Maul in his mind is to tell her the truth that's been eating him alive, that he actually did do this to her. And he has to come to terms with, and he tells her this, that as much as he wants her back, or as much as he would love to live in limbo to be with her, it really is getting home to his kids, to reality. He lived a whole lifetime with her, and it's awesome that we see them young in flashbacks, but then at the end, we see like the old people's hands, where it's like, they did stay in limbo for like 60, 70 years and live that whole life together. And so he just has to let her go, but he has to confess his guilt to himself, his version of her, in order to do that. And I think that resolution is so strong. So strong.
Yeah, I guess if you broke it down, it would be admitting a harsh truth to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, every time she shows up, it's kind of like intrusive thoughts. Yeah, in addition to confessing to his crimes and relieving his guilt, he also has to let her go in like she died.
Yeah.
Holding on to that. Eventually you have to move on with your life. Thinking about Maul in just a slightly different way, where it seems like she's a character that is making decisions throughout his mind, but she's not. She's just thoughts. And so it's funny that she doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And so this antagonist throughout is not real.
Yeah, when he's just showing Ariadne how to do things, she folds the city and then makes that awesome like bridge that lifts up and everything. And then Maul comes the projections are all closing in, and then Maul comes to stab her. So in his mind, his image of Maul in there is violent. That's only because he has her trapped in there and locked in there, and he doesn't dream that often. He tries not to. After the job with Saito in the beginning, it's like he doesn't go in to do a whole bunch with them. He goes in to train Ariadne, and then he goes in with the chemist, like by himself, to visit Maul in that elevator prison, to go and visit his memories, because it's the only way he can dream. His projection of her as violent, as breaking through, as trying to stop him from achieving the goal, is because in his mind, her mind is trying to get him to die to wake up with her. So she's trying to kill him so he can wake up in the next level, because that's what she believes. So that's why she's violent.
But I guess then if that was her motivation, why wouldn't she try and kill him? She just kills everybody else. Isn't Maul the word French
Bad.
for bad?
Yeah.
A little on the nose there, Mr. Nolan. I like how, kind of similar to we were talking in our Pirates of the Caribbean episode, how it opens creepily. Maul is creepy. Like, there are shots of her, like that, where she turns her head and the music does a jump scare, and then...
Yeah, 'cause she looks right into the camera.
Right, and then later on in that scene when she's coming after them and they get in the elevator and rise up and there's that shot of them looking down at her and she's just...
looking up.
Yeah. She's creepy. In an action movie, it's always an interesting choice to have a creepy moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because villains, they could be like, I will break you, but... but Maul is just... Ugh. And even when she comes in Ariadne with the bridge scene you were just talking about and lifting the city, it's like she's got a knife and the music is like, and she's like, get me out of here! And she's like going to stab her. It's just, wow.
Very violent. Also in the beginning in Saito's audition dream, Maul shows up and he's like, I'll handle this. Well, you better. We're here to work. So like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt knows that she is a problem, but she isn't that big of a problem yet. So this is like the beginning of it. She's beautiful. He obviously has a relationship with her, and we know that from the start, because he's like, what's she doing here? So we know that he knows her. So when she's sitting in the chair that he ties his rope to, and then she disappears, it's like, okay, so did she disappear because it's a dream, or did she disappear because she's an antagonist to him? Well, we don't know yet. So obviously when she shows up with the gun, and Saito in the dream ruins the whole thing, it's like, okay, so she is a bad guy. So that's our reveal to that one. And then later we find out when Lovett's talking to Ariadne, and he's like, well, she's his wife. She's his wife? Well, she's dead. Oh, that was our first reveal there. She's not just some character in a dream. She was real, and she died. We get multiple layers, no Inception pun intended, multiple layers to the reveal of Maul's character, all the way up to the end with Dom's, like, I Inceptioned her thing. So there's all kinds of reveals there for Maul.
Yeah, what's funny is, I don't remember the first time watching it just to know if that was like a whoa moment, because I've seen it so many times, that's just how it is. But yeah, if you've never seen the movie, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt says, well, she's dead, Like, would that actually be a... Oh.
I think so. I very much do.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
We had talked in the Dark Knight episode about how Christopher Nolan is the king of cross-cutting scenes. And this is just, that's it, the whole movie.
This is the pinnacle.
It's like 19,000 scenes. But the end, there's just so much going on with the van, hotel, the James Bond, the limbo, and it's all just culminating in these moments.
And it all matches up so that they all end at the same time,
Yeah.
which is incredible. There's this one video on YouTube where they played like the van one in real time, so that the other ones were all sped up, so that they all like matched the time of the van one. And wow. That was really interesting because there's plenty of theories on how time should or shouldn't distend based on the dreams, where like the math, where like limbo would be there for decades, etc. How everything lines up. We get a little bit of the van scene here, and then there's a lot of things happening in the other layers, and it cuts back to just a shot of the van continuing to fall. So it's like when Nolan's cross-cutting and it pulls us back, here's the dream level, and then we go into the bigger time expanse dream levels again, and we do that several times so that by the end, when they're all collapsing at the same time and the van's like about to hit the water and it's up to the very end, and then when the van does touch the water at the end, when all the kicks are happening and everyone's coming back, and then they wake up on the plane, it's just so well done.
There's a little moment in the movie where he's in Mombasa, Dom, and he's running from the global elite, I don't know, and he stops in that coffee shop and he's like, un café, and the guy's like shouting at him, he's like, oh no, come on, give me coffee. What's funny to me is you just get up and leave.
Yeah.
Why try and fight this dude to get you a little bit of coffee that you're not going to drink?
Yeah.
That's the type of moment in movies where I wonder if while they're making it they have that thought. If anyone, not that it's bad, because it adds the intensity of like two people shouting while people are looking, when they were writing it or when they were filming it, if anyone on set was like, why wouldn't you just leave? And then, well, it's a movie, Yeah, they're going to fight. Why didn't you want to serve Leonardo DiCaprio? Is there some racism in Mombasa?
Maybe he just wasn't, it was a reserved seat. He was saying, like, you can't sit here because my friend's going to show up any second now. I'm not going to give you coffee.
Or he was just saying, we don't serve coffee. And he's like, un café. And he's like, no, we don't.
It's like, do you want me to go get you a menu? Because it's not on there. I love Eames. I love how funny that character is in so many moments. Especially when he's just sitting there and he's like, this is a kick. And he pushes Joseph Gordon-Levitt's chair, because Eames is just having fun. But in that scene where Dom needs a distraction, Eames goes up straight up to the guy, to the cobalt guy, and he's like, whatever he says his name is, he's like, I remember you. And it's just so funny the way he does that, just his acting. It's just great. It's a wonderful moment. I really like Eames' character as a whole. When he's like, well, the job's botched in the rain level when they're getting fought by security. He's like, we should just end all this, and Dom's like, no. So, there's this whole thing where we're so sedated that we're not going to wake up. He's like, oh, great. So we're just going to be here until our brains turn to scrambled egg. Awesome. I love that line, the way he delivers it, that character moment. When he's like, got his mirrors, and he's going to be turning into the projection of Browning. He's like, I was supposed to have, 3 hours or whatever to crack this. And when it's a shot of him in the mirror, and it cuts to something else, and it's a shot of him again, 1 or 2 more of his reflections are Browning.
Mm-hmm.
So, because he's mentally, becoming that character. I love that. That's a wonderful moment. Very well done. And again, later, I think it's in the elevator with Saito, where he's like, I'm back here, and you see, the 1, 2, 3 versions of the girl, and then there's Eames' face, so we know that he is being this woman in this dream. I just thought that was all very, very well done. His character is very unique because of the nature of dreams. Well, in the beginning, in the Saito audition one, where Dom's explaining it to him, he's like, if you have a safe, and you fill it with your secrets, or whatever he says, if you have a safe, I need to know whatever is going on, what you have in there. And Saito looks right at the safe as he kind of turns and does whatever. It's exposition, because we're listening to Dom thinking, if we have a dream and we have a safe, now he knows that there is a safe and that that's where we put our secrets. So that's cool, but also him saying, if you have a safe, is him putting the idea into Saito's mind to have a safe of secrets. But also, Saito, that's one of the things for him where he's like, but your deception was obvious. So even though his deception was obvious with Saito, it's an audition from Saito they didn't know about. So Saito is aware in the first place that he's auditioning Dom. The idea that saying something to somebody in a dream is putting the idea in their mind to make the safe real, etc. It's kind of like the point of Inception, where they're putting an idea in someone's mind. It's different because the idea has to be organic and has to be their own for Inception to work, like the you're thinking about elephants thing. Later with Fisher, with the running with the Mr. Charles gambit, it's kind of the same thing, where it's like it's pushing the boundary of it because they have to alert the dreamer that they're dreaming, which is another layer on top of it, but still putting the idea into somebody's mind of something else you want them to believe. So him pretending to be Mr. Charles, letting him know that he's dreaming, is him lying and then bringing truth into it for his own agenda. And that's how they turn Fisher against Browning, to have the whole emotional father alternate will arc work. The idea of putting an idea in somebody's mind to get the larger idea into somebody's mind is really cool. The part where they're saying, how are we going to get to Fisher? Oh, we have to have somebody else on the airplane or whatever. And Saito was like, I bought the airline. It seemed neater. Are they all in a dream at that point? Because they're all like standing on some stairs, in the front of a hotel or something like that. Just maybe like that one camera shot of them all like set up on their different stairs is really, theatrical, like the, what's it called?
Blocking?
Blocking. I don't know, it just seems like, are they in real life going out and standing somewhere kind of in public talking about this? No, they would be keeping all of their conversations about it private. Why would they have that conversation in a dream? Would they remember it all fully when they woke up? They're obviously in a dream because they wouldn't be having that conversation out in public.
Well, it shows them a few times, like when they're staying in the middle of that intersection and buildings are changing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they go in there just to familiarize themselves, get comfortable together as a team in a dream. But there are several shots where they are in some sort of dreamscape.
Yeah. They could also just be testing the chemist's stuff, like duration, time, etc.
Yeah.
Another thing that I absolutely love about Inception is all of the incredible shots. All of the really cool things. Obviously, it's dream sequences, so like when the city's folding over itself, cool. But I like how the two buildings look like they're not going to hit, but then when they're coming in, it actually does settle right on top of it perfectly.
Yeah. You think it's going to be off a little bit.
Yeah, but nope. Because the roofs disappear as the parts right underneath the roof awnings just touch each other. It was really cool.
Yeah.
In the beginning with the kick, with him falling into the bathtub, slow motion, when he comes back up and it's like there's a layer of water on his face, or he comes up out of it, it's really cool. But then in the dream, because it's all collapsing, but then everything stops when he's trying to read the paper, as the water starts shooting in. It's like the sound changes, the speed of everything, all the movement changes, and then the water is the only movement.
Obviously the train downtown LA.
Oh,
Yeah.
The train, yeah, that was awesome.
Actually, so his thoughts of Maul are her, and is the train the only one that's a different?
Besides his kids?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting train of thought. I love the shot of the house, Maul's house in their limbo city, because the way they design it, where there's like water for some reason, and then individual pathways to the different places they lived. It's just such a...
It's like an archive.
Yeah. An interesting architectural design landscape, I guess. That's a question. So Maul hides her totem, so she doesn't remember that there's a real world. That's the whole point for hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he goes in and spins it, and that's how the Inception is, right? It slowly gets into her head. How did he get into her safe, do you think?
Well, they were married for a long time. He probably guessed the combination.
Yeah.
If he tried it on and off for a couple of days to try to find out what was in there. Then when he found out that she had put her totem in there, it's kind of like she was trying to incept herself. Like, why would she...
Reverse.
Yeah, like the things she chose to forget because she wanted that reality to be, or she wanted that limbo to be their actual reality.
Yeah.
That is an interesting decision on her part. But then for him to be like, this isn't real, I wonder how old he was when he went and did that. Were they already in like their 70s when he was like, it's time to get out of here?
Maybe to get her passcode, he would talk to her at dinner. What's your maiden name again? What was the name of your first grade teacher? What was the name of your first cat? I was just writing all these answers down. And then, your favorite number? And then he goes to the safe, enters in, Maul Horowitz.
Horowitz?
I don't know what her last name is.
Cobb?
That's if she's married. Her maiden name.
But anyway, I wonder, A, how old were they both when he went in and spun that top? Or how long were they in limbo before she put it in there? And then how long before he went and spun it? And how long after he spun it did she go into the safe to get the thing she had purposefully forgotten because she wanted to remember it? Why did she go back? She hid it in a safe inside of a dollhouse, inside a house that they don't live in anymore because it's from her past. So she had to go back to that safe for a reason. And that reason was therefore thwarted by the fact that the top was spinning, which probably blew her mind. And that's what set this whole train of events.
Nice.
No pun intended. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions I have there.
Well, maybe that's why she went back, is because she suddenly got this urge that it was nagging at her because it was spinning. So when she went back in and opened it and saw that it was spinning.
I don't think so.
What do you mean?
Well, first off, it's in the limbo where they spent 70 years. Was that in his mind or hers? I don't know. But it's not that she would... I don't think she would feel like a sense of that thing, because the point of the totem is for you physically. You know, if it doesn't feel like it's supposed to feel, you know you're in a dream. If it doesn't topple, if it doesn't do the thing, it's not that she's like emotionally connected to this object that she can't see, you know. She's feeling it from far away.
But the inception was then she felt like it wasn't real.
After she saw the top spinning in there. When she opened the thing and it was spinning, she was like, oh my god, I am in a dream. This isn't real, because if it was real, it would have fallen over. It's not a feeling, it's a thought.
Is it spinning when she goes back and opens it?
That's the inception that Dom performed on her. He opened it up, found it in there, and spun it and closed the safe. That's the inception.
So you think that the inception wasn't ticking at her brain at all for her to go then look at it. You think that she was completely fine, but if she never once looked in that safe, she would have just been in limbo forever, and Dom would have had to like physically bring her there and be like, look.
Maybe. Yes, I do. Because that was
okay, but Inception on Fisher, there's no physical object. He has no totem, but that idea is going to stick.
Well, the idea for Fisher wasn't that you're dreaming and you need to wake up.
No,
it was your father.
Right.
Which has nothing to do with a totem. Sleeping and needing to wake up has to do with a totem.
Yes, but the Inception, I'm saying, is not based on anything physical. It's just idea.
Yes, the idea that you are asleep and need to wake up was given to her because of her totem.
You're saying there are different kinds of Inception.
No, I'm saying there are different ways to plant ideas. There's not different kinds of Inception.
Right, and so my point is why couldn't hers also just be an idea in the same way that Fisher's was just an idea before she even sees the totem? Fisher, his Inception is like they got the dad, he creates it on his own, and then they have the pinwheel and he sees it. My point is that Fisher didn't have any physical totem either, and he had Inception. And when Mr. Charles is doing the gambit and he's like, you're in a dream right now, once Fisher notices, everything starts to get weird. And so that same logic would apply. He spins it in the deep recesses of her mind, and you don't think that triggered anything in her mind?
No, I don't.
So she had to go look and see it. If she had never gone, Dom would just be, hey, what about that old safe of yours? No, I think the point was he got all the way deep into her subconscious, tweaked it, and then that tweak is kind of eating away at you subconsciously.
And that's why she went and checked.
Right. And then once she saw it, she was like...
yeah, okay.
And then that's how he convinced her to, hey, let's get our heads smushed by a train. There are many other ways we could do this, but let's just get our heads crushed.
That does make sense. The notion that she felt something was off and went to check the totem.
Yeah.
Because at first I thought that you were saying that she just felt like something was off, and that's why she got the idea that she was still dreaming. No. Something feeling off was what made her check the totem.
Yes.
Which was the inception that you're still dreaming.
Yes.
I was just getting those 2 points as 1 point. But
Gotcha.
now I see that it's a duality. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a point within a point. There are a lot of theories surrounding the movie. The main one being at the end when the top and it cuts, is the whole thing a dream? And then there's the theory about how Leonardo DiCaprio, Dom's totem, is actually his wedding ring the whole time, because people noticed that he wears his wedding ring in the real world, but not in the dreams. But that's it. So it's kind of like, if you were to make up a reason, I suppose it would be he doesn't want the ring in the dreams because then it's just a constant reminder of them all. But then at the same time, they pick their own clothes, right? Right? They must.
Probably. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe the clothes just appear as part of their self-image
Well,
in the dream because they're dreaming and their mind populates it.
Eames can create a gun. He can create a big gun.
Yeah.
And you can create different things within the dream. So maybe they could, oh, that's fun. They could have looked down and been like, clown costume. And then suddenly they're in a clown costume.
I wonder if they didn't even think about it, and the clothes they were wearing in the dreams is just part of their self-image as they're going about being themselves.
Right.
Same with like hair. They don't do their hair for the dream.
Well, when Eames creates Browning, he's creating a character.
Very consciously, yes.
Right.
But maybe they don't all do that. Who knows? Maybe they all do. Maybe they had a session, they just deleted the scene where they're like, think about what you're going to be wearing when we go into the dream. You know, we have to look nice.
And then Dom was like, don't tell me what you're wearing, because it might remind me of Maul.
They're like all in Maul's dress. Damn it!
The top, though, at the end, it was an intentional choice to make the cut at the end for the audience to be like, whoa. And what's funny about that is it's almost like Christopher Nolan did Inception on the audience in real life. Because the whole time you're watching it, you think you got a handle on things, you think you got a handle on the end, and then he does the spinning top and doesn't let you see whether or not it falls down. So then now you've been incepted because you walk out of the theater thinking, was it all a dream? And you're trying to piece it all together, and you've got that nagging doubt for the rest of your life because you'll never actually know the answer. So that's why we're all going to jump off of a hotel balcony, because we never know whether or not Inception was real.
It's true.
I personally believe it was real.
Oh yeah.
One of the biggest evidences for me in real life, our real life, they cast 2 sets of children for Dom. At the end, they're actually older kids. And I believe even in the credits it says older children. And because Dom never sees their faces, they get up and run. And so he never wants to have, Maul is like, look at our kids, look! And they go to look up and he turns away because he doesn't want his real life memories to get muddled with dreams, because your brain updates information like that. Like in real life, when I think of my brother when I was a kid, I'm just picturing my brother now, because that's who I know now.
It's like this 12-year-old with a beard.
Yeah, right. And so that moment, character-wise, story-wise, when then they turn and you see their faces, it's like a completion of that arc, of that story, and it's like, I am back. This is real.
Or it could be him accepting this dream as his reality.
Yes, but then that defeats the purpose of him moving on from Maul.
Yes.
Like, he accepts that she is a projection, and he's like, I have to get rid of you. So then for him just to turn around and do that with his kids, it's like, lesson learned.
If at the end it turns out that it's not real, it undercuts the emotional core of the entire film.
Right.
Which I don't think would be a good enough sacrifice worthy of saying, you've been tricked. Because the movie itself wouldn't be that gimmicky, I don't believe.
Finding out that the entire thing is false, it's like, well, why did I do this? That's also my own personal bias, though. I am not a fan of dream sequences in movies, which, ironically, this whole movie is dream sequences. But I think,
different.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it's a way for a writer to have a moment that would drastically change their script, but they can get away with it by having it be a dream sequence. You know, I guess, I don't mean to always rag on horror movies, but horror movies do that a lot, where a character will be walking through a field and then the monster will grab them and drag them away, and then it cuts and they wake up. And it's like, well, because you couldn't do that in your story, because then your story is over.
Yeah.
And so
there's an excuse to have your shock.
They're not real scares because it's not really happening. There are no stakes.
Yep.
So if a character is in a dream and a monster jumps out and scares them, and then they wake up in their bed,
it's for the audience's emotion solely, and not for any actual stakes in the film for the characters.
Right, which is not as strong because, threat's gone.
Yeah. But the point of this movie is that these dreams can affect your reality, which is the only way Inception works.
Another theory online is after Dom first tests the sedative in that room, he comes out in the bathroom and he's all disheveled and distraught, and he spins the top and it falls off the sink, and then Saito comes in and he picks it up, but he never spins it again. They intentionally don't show us that. And then there are other hints of evidence, I suppose you could say. Dom is in Mombasa and he's getting chased by this unknown organization. And yeah, when he's running through that little crevice, it seems like it's shrinking the way it's filmed. And then he gets out of it and Saito happens to pull up. And so you could make the argument that there are kind of dream-like scenes. And then that one scene where he's hanging out and then like his professor is there for some reason. And just kidding, that doesn't happen. You're just like in dreams, it's always like, yeah, I was building a cabin, and then my teacher from high school was there, and
Oh yeah, okay. When you said his professor, I thought you meant Michael Caine, who is in it. Okay.
So here is something that I have a hard time with. I'm not a huge fan of film analysis or film theory. Moments like that are in the movie, right? They filmed it, him dropping the thing in the sink. And then there are kind of dots that you could connect that technically are in the movie, okay? But I feel the conclusions or the narrative drawn from that is made up. But it's a hard fine line where, because to me, if it's not presented in the movie, then it's irrelevant and it's pointless. Like, obviously for fun conversations, go wild, but just in an actual, what the movie is trying to say, if it's not in the movie, then anything else around it. Because the filmmakers, it's intention. And so with Inception, a lot of those theories feel like, yes, they are using a shot that is in the movie, but then they are drawing conclusions that are outside of the movie. Again, the fine line comes in. Christopher Nolan obviously wants people to think and discuss this movie, but to what extent that discussion goes away from the narrative of the story is where then I start to lose.
Where it becomes purely hypothetical.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about that in the Dark Knight episode. But movies like Inception, where the ending is intentionally ambiguous, only in the sense of when they choose to cut it. I don't actually think the ending is ambiguous, because I think the movie...
It wobbles.
Yeah, which now I'm realizing all of my evidence for what I believe.
Well...
But it's... I believe that he wanted you to think about it just as like a ooh ending, as opposed to it was all a dream. I just think story-wise, like we said, it's stronger and more complete if it is real at the end.
Yeah.
It's a better character arc.
You know, accomplishing the Inception so he can get home to his kids, overcoming his thing with Maul. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When Maul is like, how do you know it's not a dream? You know, like, have you been feeling persecuted lately? Chased around the globe by anonymous organizations? There was a point where you're like, maybe this is all in his mind because he wants to get home to his kids, so he's created this whole thing in this world.
That being said, though, there is a fun theory that I do enjoy, where Ariadne is actually there to incept Dom.
To make him believe that he's going to be able to go see his kids.
Ariadne was hired by Michael Caine to get Dom to come back to the real world. And so he's in this dream, because she's there for everything about Maul, you know, and she's always kind of guiding him and saying, like, you need to do this, and she goes into his memories, and she's like, you know, you have to let her go. So then at the end, when he lets her go, then he's back to the real world. Michael Caine picks him up at the airport.
That is fascinating, because somebody else online pointed out that maze she draws is unsolvable. You start at the middle and you go to 3 dead ends, and that's it. It's not the circular one. Can't be solved. Not that that's like proof for this theory, but I've never entertained this before, which would mean that it is all in Cobb's head. I don't know. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Where he goes down to see the chemist, and they go into that thing with the sink where it falls, etc. Is that all already a dream state set up by this?
I don't know. I just know that the Inception is actually just for Cobb to let go of Maul,
which
so he can come back to reality.
Is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, well, that would make the whole Inception in Fisher for Saito. Is that still reality? Or like...
Well, I think that's the ruse. They think Leonardo DiCaprio thinks he's on this job, but everybody else is in on it for him. And so,
including
like the whole,
Saito and Fisher?
Yeah, everybody. And so the idea is that organic Inception, where he comes to that realization on his own, separate from the mission. That's fun to think about, but that's what actually happens anyway, in terms of his character arc, is to let go of Maul, and he does. And so it's a subplot anyway. And so really all you're doing is just giving it a name beyond just character.
Adding intention outside of himself.
Right. The music is incredible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
I think my favorite moment with the music is at the end when they're in Saito and Cobb decides to, like, stay with Maul. He says, where is Fisher? And Maul is like, he's on the porch. And then he's like, Ariadne, go see if he's on the porch. And she's like, and he's like, go see if he's on the porch. And when he says that second line, the music kicks in as he's talking, and it just adds this, like, ah!
Obviously, the music is incredible when everything's collapsing, you know, when all the layers are coming together at the end, you know, like everybody knows the bum, 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 when it's all like, then the music slows down to the thing where, like, the music's done when Ariadne opens her eyes with the water coming around her in the van.
Yeah,
like,
it slows down to that. Yeah. Which is actually a slowed down version of the song La Vie en Rose.
I know I said earlier about the movie feeling like it's really fast paced and stuff, and the music helps a lot with that. Even like the music where it's got like a ticking, almost like a clock when they're like doing the planning and other things, where it even feels like forward momentum, and it's like kind of thought provoking, entertaining when they're like planning out the thing and talking about what they should do in their Inception job. The music lends so much to the feel of the movie. Obviously, that's what music does. The score is so incredible. Obviously, Time is one of the best songs, but one of the earlier songs, The Dream is Collapsing, I think is the title of it. It's shorter and so wonderful. Such a wonderful song. Very exciting. That's when I like to turn on full blast when I'm like going 75. Yeah.
Going 75 down what? I will say one thing about Inception that I wish was slightly different. And it's not something that I feel would detract from the movie in any way, but they spend a lot of time discussing that you can do whatever you want in this dream world, but if you push it too far, the subconscious will realize it's in a dream. But they don't really do a whole lot of dreamy type stuff. Like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt does the paradox stairs at one point, which is great, and then Eames does the bigger gun, like, you gotta dream a little bit bigger, darling. That's kind of really it. Like, they don't really do too many dream shift things. Which, again, they have a built-in explanation as to why not, because the subconscious would then notice. They could fly if they wanted. They could probably turn into an animal. Like, you could do anything. It's a dream world.
Like, what would help Fisher with his father? I'm gonna be a tiger.
I love the shot of, at the end, when the dream is collapsing and Fisher is talking to his dad, and then he, like, falls down into the floor. And they had to have just, like, built this set to, like, have him go down like that. And it goes to show how much money is spent on movies, because just that one, like, 2-second shot would cost so much money.
Yeah, and then there's the one of Ariadne laying on that slab that just kind of moves.
Yeah.
It's like, they could have dropped her a little more. I have seen this movie so many countless times throughout my life. It is one of my absolute favorites. It is gorgeous, you know, every different scene with, like we talked about, you know, the colors, everything is shot so wonderfully. Nolan's perspective and how he views the world that the film moves through and with is always wonderful. And Inception is so pretty. It's such a beautiful movie with everything that is moving in different shots, you know. Everybody's all dressed fancy and looks really nice. There's so many different shots that are crisp in the characters, the sets, the colors and everything, so it's gorgeous. The movie is fast-paced, it's exciting, it's complex, even if you're like, too much exposition, it's confusing, blah, blah, blah. There's always something new. Every scene has something else new that's entering, whether it's information, whether it's something that goes wrong that they have to overcome. There's the next step in their plan to accomplish the Inception. There's a subplot of Dom's whole thing with Maul. The movie's constantly moving, constantly bringing in new ideas, new events that they have to overcome. It's constantly entertaining. I love it. It's been one of my favorites for a decade.
And the stakes feel real, and the action is intense.
And it's larger than life in a way that a lot of movies aren't, even if they are larger than life in some aspect. Inception has this larger feel to it, because of the dreamness and the large, you know, city folding over, etc. But the idea of planting an idea in somebody's mind and getting a whole team to, like, plan a heist around this thing with so many different characters, moving parts and layers in the dreams. There's so much going on.
And what's funny about Inception is that when you're watching it, it's all in your mind. We say this every week, but if you have fun memories of Inception, or any memories, even if you disliked it, we'd like to hear about it. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell. We put out new movies every week, every Tuesday, and next week is going to be Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. I'm Levi.
I'm Patrick.
And this has been Levi and Patrick Went to the Movies, Christopher Nolan's Inception.
Why do we always run out of things to say when it's silent?
I know. It's ridiculous.